The U.S. Navy submarine missing for 75 years has been found off Okinawa, Japan. The USS Grayback had sailed out of Pearl Harbor on January 28, 1944 for its 10th combat patrol, and it never came back.
For 75 years, the USS Grayback lay hidden in the darkness of the Pacific Ocean. 80 sailors vanished without a trace. The Navy searched, historians debated, and families were left with only questions. Then, in 2019, explorers made a discovery that rewrote history.
An underwater drone made the discovery nearly 3,000 feet down. The submarine had apparently imploded and sank, killing everyone aboard.
What they found 1,400 feet below the waves was not just a submarine. It was a frozen moment in time. And it shocked everyone. The submarine that vanished without a trace. The year was 1941. The world was at war, and America needed submarines. In Groton, Connecticut, workers at the Electric Boat Company were building one of the most advanced underwater weapons ever created. They called her the USS Grayback. She was a Tambor-class submarine, nearly 300 feet long, packed with torpedoes, and designed to hunt enemy ships in the darkest corners of the Pacific. When she was commissioned in early 1941, nobody could have predicted what would come next. Pearl Harbor changed everything. Suddenly, America was fighting a war on two fronts, and submarines like Grayback became the silent hunters of the sea. Over the next 3 years, Grayback proved herself again and again. 9 war patrols, 14 enemy ships sent to the bottom of the ocean, more than 63,000 tons of Japanese shipping destroyed, 8 battle stars pinned to her record. She was one of the most successful submarines in the entire United States Navy. Her crew was a band of brothers, 80 men who lived, worked, and fought together in a steel tube beneath the waves. They ate together. They slept in bunks stacked 3 high. They breathed recycled air and went weeks without seeing sunlight. It was cramped, it was dangerous, and they loved it. The thing about submarine warfare is that you are always one mistake away from death. One leaky seal, one miscalculated dive, one enemy bomb in the wrong place. The men of Grayback knew this. They accepted it. They joked about it over meals of canned food and lukewarm coffee, because that is what warriors do. On January 28, 1944, Grayback departed Pearl Harbor for her 10th war patrol. Her mission was to hunt Japanese ships in the East China Sea near the Luzon-Formosa shipping lanes. It was dangerous territory. Enemy planes patrolled the skies. Destroyers swept the waters with sonar. But Grayback had done this before. 9 times, she had gone into enemy waters and come back. For weeks, the reports came in. Grayback was doing what Grayback did best. She torpedoed a cargo ship, then another. She damaged enemy vessels and slipped away before the destroyers could find her. The crew was on fire. Everything was going according to plan. Then came February 25th, 1944. Grayback sent her final radio message. She reported her position. She confirmed her kills. She said she was heading home to Midway Island. And then, silence. She was supposed to arrive on March 7th. The Navy waited. March 7th came and went. No Grayback. March 8th, nothing. March 9th, still nothing. The Navy began to worry. They sent search planes. They scanned the ocean. They listened for any radio signal, any sign of life. There was nothing. On March 30th, 1944, the United States Navy made it official. USS Grayback was presumed lost with all hands. 80 sailors, 80 families, 80 letters that would shatter hearts across America. The submarine had simply vanished. Where did Grayback go? What happened in those final moments? Did the crew suffer? Did they know they were going to die? These questions haunted the families for decades, and the answers were buried somewhere beneath 1 million square miles of dark, cold ocean. Think about that for a moment. Imagine being the mother of a young sailor. Your son goes off to war. He writes you letters telling you he is fine, that everything is going well, that he misses your cooking. And then the letters stop. You hear nothing for weeks, and then a telegram arrives. We regret to inform you that your son is missing and presumed dead. That was the reality for 80 families in the spring of 1944. They were left to imagine the worst. They were left to wonder, and they would keep wondering for the next 75 years. But here is the thing about the truth. It has a way of surfacing. Sometimes it takes years, sometimes it takes decades, and sometimes it takes 75 years and one very determined historian who noticed something everyone else had missed. When a submarine disappears without a trace, people talk. And when people talk, stories grow. Rumors, myths, and the wild theories. For decades after Grayback vanished, the mystery attracted every kind of theory you can imagine. Some were reasonable, some were ridiculous, and some were downright bizarre. But in the absence of facts, speculation fills the void. The most common theory was simple. Grayback hit a mine. The East China Sea was littered with Japanese naval mines. They floated just beneath the surface, invisible and deadly, waiting for an unlucky ship to brush against them. One moment, you are cruising along. The next moment, boom. No warning, no escape, just fire and flooding and a rapid descent to the bottom. Others believed Grayback suffered a mechanical failure. Submarines in the 1940s were complex machines held together by welds, rivets, and prayers. A cracked pipe could flood a compartment. A stuck valve could trap men in a watery grave. A malfunction in the diving planes could send the entire boat plunging to depths beyond her crushing limit.
I think the fascination about submarine warfare comes about classic story.
It happened to other submarines. Maybe it happened to Grayback. Some historians suspected an unrecorded enemy attack. The chaos of war meant that records were incomplete. Maybe a Japanese destroyer caught Grayback on the surface and sank her before she could dive. Maybe a patrol plane dropped depth charges that found their mark. Maybe the attack was never officially logged because the ship that did the killing was itself sunk days later. And then there were the wilder theories. Some people whispered about secret missions. Grayback was actually running a covert operation, they said. She was never in the East China Sea at all. She was somewhere else, doing something classified, and the Navy covered up the truth to protect national security. The conspiracy theorists had a field day with this one. Others talked about friendly fire. In the fog of war, mistakes happen. American planes bombed American submarines more than once during World War II. Maybe one of our own pilots saw Grayback on the surface, mistook her for a Japanese boat, and attacked.
A submarine with a crew of 80, presumed lost at sea during World War II, has just been found off the coast of Japan.
The Navy would never admit to such a tragedy, they argued. Better to let the mystery remain unsolved than reveal an embarrassing truth. There were even rumors of strange underwater phenomena, unexplained currents, unusual magnetic fields, things that scrambled instruments and disoriented crews. The ocean, after all, is full of mysteries we do not understand. Who knows what forces might have conspired against Grayback in her final hours? The problem with all these theories was simple. There was no evidence, no wreckage, no debris, no bodies. The Navy searched the area where Grayback was supposed to have gone down and found absolutely nothing. It was as if the submarine had never existed at all. But hidden in enemy combat reports and mistranslated coordinates was a single error that would finally pull Grayback's story out of the realm of speculation and into stark reality. The one-digit mistake that hid a grave for 75 years. After World War II ended, the United States captured massive amounts of Japanese military records. That included ships' logs, combat reports, mission summaries, and intelligence assessments. American analysts spent years translating and studying these records. They matched Japanese combat reports with American losses. They confirmed what happened to ships and submarines
The Battle of Java Sea, one of the worst naval defeats for the Allies in World War II.
that had disappeared during the war. They pieced together the final hours of vessels that had been written off as lost with all hands. For the USS Grayback, they found a Japanese report that seemed to explain everything. An Imperial Japanese Navy bomber had attacked and sunk an American submarine in the East China Sea. The date matched. The circumstances matched. The Navy concluded that this must have been Grayback, but there was a problem. A big problem. When the coordinates from the Japanese report were translated into English, someone made an error. One digit in the longitude was wrong, just one number. But in the vast Pacific Ocean, one digit can mean the difference between finding a shipwreck and searching in the wrong place. That single mistake shifted the presumed location of Grayback by more than 100 miles. 100 miles might not sound like much on land. You could drive that distance in a couple of hours. But underwater, in the deep ocean, it is an enormous distance. The search area expanded by thousands of square miles. The bottom was uncharted. The technology of the 1940s and 1950s was nowhere near capable of searching such a vast space. So for more than 7 decades, everyone looked in the wrong place. Every expedition, every underwater survey, every historical analysis, they were all based on that one mistranslated coordinate. And because they were looking in the wrong spot, they never found anything. The submarine was not lost. The records were not missing. The truth was right there, written in Japanese military documents. But one tiny human error had hidden it from the world. Enter Yutaka Iwasaki. Iwasaki was a Japanese systems engineer with a passion for history. He was not a professional historian. He was not working for the Navy. He was just a curious man who spent his spare time studying old military records and trying to solve historical mysteries. In 2018, Iwasaki was digging through Imperial Japanese Navy action reports when he stumbled upon the file about the submarine attack. He read the original Japanese text carefully. He compared it to the official American translation, and he noticed something that made him sit up straight in his chair. The numbers did not match. On February 27, 1944, just 2 days after Grayback sent her final radio message, a Nakajima B-5N bomber had spotted an American submarine on the surface. The plane, known to Americans as a Kate, was operating from a Japanese carrier. The pilot made his attack run and dropped a 250-kilogram bomb directly on the target. The bomb hit. The submarine was mortally wounded, and within minutes, she was gone. With the corrected coordinates and the detailed Japanese combat account, Iwasaki had everything needed to finally locate the USS Grayback. He shared his findings with American researchers. The word spread to historians and explorers, and suddenly, after 75 years of mystery, there was hope. With the new coordinates locked in, modern technology took the search deep below the dark ocean surface to a place where time itself seemed frozen. Finding the Grayback in the midnight zone. Tim Taylor had been searching for lost submarines for years. As the founder of the Lost 52 project, his mission was simple but ambitious. Find every American submarine lost during World War II and bring closure to the families who had waited decades for answers. The project was named for the 52 American submarines that went down during the war, taking more than 3,500 sailors to unmarked graves beneath the waves. These submarines were war graves. They were pieces of history, and they deserved to be found. In June 2019, his team set sail for the East China Sea, armed with some of the most advanced underwater exploration technology ever created. Finding a submarine on the ocean floor is not like finding a car in a parking lot. The search area was vast, the water was dark, and the target was sitting 1,400 feet below the surface, in what scientists call the midnight zone. At that depth, no sunlight penetrates. The pressure is crushing. The temperature hovers just above freezing. It is an alien world where humans cannot survive without machines. Taylor's team used autonomous underwater vehicles, or AUVs. These are robotic submarines that can dive deep, scan the ocean floor with sonar, and search for hours without human operators. They are equipped with side-scan sonar that creates detailed images of the seabed, revealing any objects that do not belong. For weeks, the AUVs searched. They swept back and forth across the target area, painting sonar pictures of the bottom. Most of what they found was nothing. Sand, rocks, the occasional underwater cliff, the kind of features you would expect to see on any ocean floor. But then, something appeared on the sonar screen that made everyone freeze. A large metallic anomaly, a shape that was clearly not natural. Something sitting upright on the seabed, casting a sonar shadow that matched the profile of a World War II submarine. The team immediately launched a remotely operated vehicle, an ROV equipped with high-definition cameras and powerful lights. The ROV descended into the darkness, following the coordinates from the sonar contact. As it approached the bottom, the lights began to illuminate shapes that had not been seen by human eyes in 75 years. First, they saw the hull, long and cylindrical, covered in marine growth, but unmistakably a submarine. The boat was sitting upright on the seafloor, almost as if she had gently settled there. The conning tower rose from the deck, its distinctive shape confirming that this was an American vessel. Then the camera moved closer, and the team saw something that removed any doubt about what they had found. The builder's plate, still attached to the hull, still readable after 75 years underwater. USS Grayback. The moment was electric. Grown men and women with years of experience in underwater exploration were wiping tears from their eyes. They had done it. After 7 decades of searching in the wrong place, after 75 years of mystery and speculation, the USS Grayback had finally been found. The submarine was sitting 1,427 feet below the surface. That is deeper than the Empire State Building is tall. At that depth, the pressure is more than 40 times what we experience on the surface. Sunlight has long since faded to nothing. It is a world of eternal darkness and crushing cold. And yet, there she was, intact, identifiable, waiting. The discovery was later officially verified by the United States Navy History and Heritage Command. USS Grayback was confirmed as the first American submarine ever discovered in Japanese waters. The mystery that had haunted families for 3/4 of a century was finally solved. The news spread around the world. Major newspapers carried the story. Television networks broadcast the footage. Social media exploded with shares and comments. People who had never heard of USS Grayback were suddenly captivated by the tale of a submarine lost and found. For the families, the moment was overwhelming. Some had spent their entire lives not knowing what happened to their fathers or grandfathers. Some had inherited the pain from previous generations. And now, finally, they had answers. The location, the circumstances, the truth. But the discovery was only the beginning, because what the cameras revealed on the hull and deck told a story more dramatic and heartbreaking than anyone had imagined. The final battle frozen in steel. As the ROV cameras swept across the wreck of USS Grayback, the story of her final moments began to emerge from the darkness. This was not a submarine that had simply disappeared. This was a submarine that had gone down fighting. The damage was immediately visible. Aft of the conning tower, there was a massive wound in the hull. The steel was bent and torn, the kind of damage that only comes from one thing: a direct bomb hit. This matched the Japanese combat reports perfectly. The 250-kilogram bomb dropped by the Kate bomber had struck Grayback right behind her conning tower. The bow of the submarine was broken at an angle, When Grayback went down, she hit the bottom hard enough to bend her forward section. The impact must have been violent. The descent must have been rapid. From the moment that the bomb struck to the moment she hit the seafloor, the crew would have had only minutes, maybe less. The Japanese records filled in more details. After the bomber made its attack, anti-submarine vessels rushed to the scene. They circled the area, watching and waiting, and they saw the unmistakable signs of a dying submarine. Then came the oil, great slicks of it spreading across the water. Diesel fuel and lubricating oil from ruptured tanks floating to the surface and staining the sea black. In submarine warfare, an oil slick is a death certificate. It means the boat is going down and she is not coming back up. But the Japanese were not satisfied with one bomb. They wanted to be certain. The anti-submarine vessels began depth charging the area. They dropped explosive canisters into the water, set to detonate at various depths. Each explosion would send a shock wave through the ocean, powerful enough to crush a submarine's hull if it got close enough. Whether these depth charges found Grayback is unclear. The submarine was likely already sinking by the time they arrived, but the attack was relentless. The Japanese wanted to make absolutely sure their enemy was destroyed. One detail from the wreck stood out above all others. Near the hull, lying on the sea floor, was Grayback's deck gun. This was a 3-inch weapon mounted on the deck, used for surface engagements when torpedoes were impractical. The fact that it was found detached from the submarine suggested something important. Grayback was on the surface when she was hit. Submarines of that era spent most of their time on the surface. They only submerged when danger threatened or when they were making an attack. Grayback was likely running on the surface, recharging her batteries and ventilating her compartments when the Japanese bombers spotted her. The crew probably saw the plane coming. They might have been scrambling to dive when the bomb hit. They might have been manning the deck gun, trying to shoot down the attacker. Either way, they were fighting until the very end. The violence of the attack and the speed of the sinking meant that there was no time for escape, no time to launch life rafts, no time to send a distress signal, no time for anything except the terrible realization that the boat was going down. The wreck of USS Grayback was not just a piece of debris on the ocean floor. It was a monument to courage, a tomb for heroes, and a time capsule that had preserved the final moments of 80 American sailors for 3/4 of a century. Inside the hull, the submarine held echoes of lives interrupted, silent remnants that refused to be swept away by time. The men who never left their posts. Out of respect for the fallen, the Lost 52 project did not enter the wreck. The USS Grayback is a war grave, protected by law and sacred to the families of the men who died there. But even from the outside, the images told a haunting story. The submarine was remarkably well preserved. The cold, dark environment of the deep ocean had protected her from the rapid decay that destroys wrecks in shallower water. The hull was intact. The conning tower stood proud. The deck stretched out like a silent highway leading into the darkness. Marine life had colonized the exterior. Anemones and corals clung to the steel, transforming the war machine into an artificial reef. Fish darted around the structure, using it for shelter. In death, Grayback had become a nursery for new life. But inside those steel walls, the crew remained. When a submarine sinks rapidly, as Grayback did, there is no time for the crew to escape. The water rushes in, the pressure equalizes, and the men are trapped where they stand. Some might have been at their battle stations, manning torpedoes or watching instruments. Others might have been in their bunks, caught off guard by the sudden attack. Still others might have been in the mess hall, eating a meal they would never finish. The cold water and lack of oxygen meant that the bodies would have been preserved far longer than normal. Eventually, nature takes its course. But for decades, the men of Grayback lay in their final positions, frozen in time like a photograph. This is what makes submarine wrecks so powerful. They are not just pieces of metal on the ocean floor. They are tombs. They are monuments. They are frozen moments of history, preserved in the darkness where no one can see them. All 80 sailors who died on USS Grayback are memorialized on tablets at the Manila American Cemetery in the Philippines. Their names are carved in stone, honoring their sacrifice. Some family members were interviewed after the discovery was announced. Many of them were elderly, the children of Grayback sailors who had grown up without fathers. They spoke of finally having answers after a lifetime of questions. They spoke of gratitude to the explorers who had refused to give up. They spoke of peace. One family member said something that captured the feeling perfectly. Finding Grayback, she said, was like finally being able to close a book that had been open for 75 years. The crew of USS Grayback never left their posts. They went down fighting. And now, at last, the world knows where they rest. The images from the wreck site were shared with the families before being released to the public. It was important that they saw first. It was important that they had time to process. For some, it was the first time they had ever seen where their loved ones died. Many families held private ceremonies after the announcement. They gathered in homes and churches. They shared memories of men they had never met but always loved. They looked at old photographs and read old letters. They cried. They laughed. They remembered. Yet even after closure for one submarine, deeper in the ocean lay dozens more lost boats waiting for their stories to surface. Overkill, closure, and the unfinished hunt. The discovery of USS Grayback did more than just locate a wreck. It rewrote history. For decades, the official record was based on that mistranslated coordinate. Historians had built theories on a foundation of error. Naval analysts had drawn conclusions from incorrect data. The entire story of what happened to Grayback was built on a lie that nobody knew was a lie. Now, the truth was out. The Japanese combat reports were validated. The sequence of events was confirmed. The final battle of USS Grayback was no longer a mystery, but a documented historical event. Today, USS Grayback rests undisturbed on the seafloor. The coordinates are known, but the exact location is not publicly released to prevent treasure hunters and looters from disturbing the site. She is protected as a war grave, honored as a memorial, and left in peace. Over the decades since she sank, the submarine has transformed into an artificial reef. Marine life has colonized every surface. Coral grows on the conning tower. Fish swim through the shadows. The instrument of war has become a nursery of life. There is something poetic about that transformation. The submarine that brought death to enemy ships now gives life to creatures of the sea. The steel that was forged for destruction now provides shelter and sustenance. The grave of 80 sailors has become a garden. But the story does not end with Grayback. The Lost 52 project continues its mission. Of the 52 American submarines lost during World War II, many have never been found. They rest in unmarked graves across the Pacific and Atlantic, their locations unknown, their crews still missing. For each of these submarines, there are families waiting, descendants who grew up without grandfathers, communities that lost their young men to the sea, historians who want to complete the record. The mission to find the lost boats is not just about archaeology. It is about honoring sacrifice. It is about bringing closure. It is about keeping promises. The technology gets better every year. Autonomous underwater vehicles can dive deeper and search longer. Side-scan sonar produces clearer images. Archival research uncovers new clues in old documents. Each expedition builds on the lessons of the last. Somewhere out there, beneath the waves, more submarines are waiting. Their crews are still at their posts. Their stories are still untold. And the explorers who search for them refuse to give up. The discovery of USS Grayback was both an ending and a beginning. It closed a 75-year-old chapter of pain and uncertainty, and it opened a new chapter of hope. Hope that every lost submarine can be found. Hope that every family can have closure. Hope that every sailor who gave his life will be remembered. Because in the end, that is what this is really about. Not sunken metal, not historical records, not underwater exploration technology. It is about the men. Rest easy, sailors. Your watch is over. You are home. The legacy of USS Grayback lives on in ways both tangible and intangible. Her story is taught in naval academies. Her sacrifice is remembered at memorial services. Her discovery is studied by historians and explorers alike. But perhaps the greatest legacy is the lesson she teaches us about persistence, about never giving up, about the importance of looking at old problems with new eyes. A single digit kept her hidden for 75 years. A single determined researcher brought her back to light. That is the power of curiosity. That is the power of dedication. That is the power of refusing to accept that some mysteries can never be solved. Every lost submarine out there has a story. Every crew deserves to be found. Every family deserves answers. And as long as there are explorers willing to search and historians willing to dig through old records, hope remains alive. The deep ocean is vast. It is dark. It is unforgiving. But it is not impenetrable. With the right technology, the right research, and the right determination, its secrets can be unlocked. USS Grayback proved that. And somewhere out there, the next discovery is waiting to happen. The ocean keeps its secrets for a long time, but not forever. Somewhere beneath those dark waters, more submarines are waiting. More stories are ready to be told, and the search continues. If you found this story as powerful as we did, drop a comment below and let us know which lost ship you think should be found next. Subscribe if you want to see more untold stories from history, and share this video with anyone who loves a mystery with an incredible ending. Until next time.